Mahabharata, cleansing Adharma, forging Dharma? In the East, there is an epic that never lets its readers or listeners rest easy. It is not merely a tale of heroes and war, but a testimony to what happens when humans are forced to choose between impossible paths, where the line between Dharma and Adharma becomes blurred. The Mahabharata raises the greatest question of all: can war ever be just? The Kurukshetra war did not erupt because people failed to understand peace. It was born because every avenue of peace was sealed off. Even the final plea for 5 villages was denied. The last negotiations collapsed, and Krishna, the divine envoy, was compelled to turn toward war, declaring this battle to be a Dharmayuddha, a war for the sake of righteousness, a war to cleanse the world of Adharma. Yet the questions echo far beyond the beating war drums. If war is truly Dharma, why must teachers, elders, and kin all perish? If the soul never dies, does that absolve the act of killing? If victory yields only a field of corpses, what is its true worth? The Mahabharata is thus not simply a chronicle of war. It is a mirror held up to the human heart, showing how we invent reasons to make slaughter seem meaningful, how we cloak loss in the language of righteousness so it may not feel in vain. But perhaps such reasoning is nothing more than a shadow we cast to soothe ourselves. Victory at Kurukshetra was a hollow triumph. Thrones were erected upon heaps of the dead, and the roars of victory drowned beneath wails of grief. If this war was truly a cleansing as Krishna reasoned, then it was a cleansing that left behind only blood. The epic endures because it asks the timeless question: is there ever true justice in violence? Or is it merely a mirage crafted by human hearts desperate to endure their pain? The root of conflict, when peace is denied. The tale begins with 2 branches of the same royal bloodline, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, heirs of the Kuru dynasty. Both had rightful claims to the throne. Yet envy and ambition fanned the flames of discord. Duryodhana's refusal to yield, even when the Pandavas reduced their demand to a mere 5 villages, extinguished all hope of reconciliation. Before swords were drawn, there were many attempts to avert bloodshed. Krishna, as envoy of peace, journeyed to the Kaurava court, pleading for even a fragment of land to preserve harmony. His words were scorned. Bhishma, the grandsire bound by his oath, though aligned with the Kauravas, yearned to prevent war. His counsel was ignored by Duryodhana. Vidura, the wise minister, warned tirelessly that war would destroy both sides. Yet his voice was but a whisper lost in the tumult of pride. Every plea, every counsel, every hope for peace was silenced by Duryodhana's arrogance and Kauravas' confidence in their power. The path to war closed step by step until none remained. When Krishna's final mission failed, not only rejected but insulted, he laid aside the mantle of mediator and assumed the role of guide to war. This was no longer a dispute for succession. It was declared a Dharmayuddha, a cosmic war to purge Adharma from the earth. Krishna's logic: when killing is made into Dharma. With diplomacy exhausted, Krishna, avatar of Vishnu, and envoy of the Pandavas, proclaimed that the war was sacred, a Dharmayuddha, a war for righteousness. He persuaded Arjuna and the Pandavas with reasoning that cut to the bone. To let Adharma rule the earth would be a greater calamity than death itself. Life and death are but cycles. The soul is eternal, merely casting off one body for another. A warrior's duty is to uphold justice. To abandon duty for personal ties is sin far weightier than killing. Thus slaughter on the battlefield was reframed as purification, not destruction. Yet in the midst of Kurukshetra's deafening drums, Arjuna's heart fell silent. He gazed upon the armies, teachers who once trained him, kinsmen who grew beside him, friends who shared his struggles. How could he lift his bow against them? Arjuna collapsed in anguish, his eyes brimming with tears. His torment was not fear of death, but the grief of a man who could not bear to shatter the world with his own hands. He cried to Krishna, "What worth is victory, if it is purchased with the blood of those we love? Better to live in defeat than to reign upon a throne of corpses." It was then that Krishna, charioteer and God, spoke the words that became the Bhagavad Gita. Over and over, he recited the logic of war, a shield for Arjuna's heart. The soul does not die. Death is but a change of form. Killing does not destroy the eternal self. Duty is Dharma. As a Kshatriya, a warrior, Arjuna was born to protect justice. To abandon duty for attachment is the greater sin. Act without attachment. To fight without greed or hatred, detached from outcome, is to align even war with Dharma. Krishna's voice carried the weight of the cosmos. He turned the act of killing into a cosmic rhythm, akin to Shiva's dance of destruction that makes way for new creation. But beneath the grandeur of philosophy lay a stark truth. Arjuna was not a man hungry for blood. He was a man of grief and compassion, forced to fight against his own heart. Krishna's reasoning was not merely philosophy. It was armor forged for a reluctant warrior. This is why the Mahabharata transcends myth. It reveals the dual truth of existence. In the cosmic order, destruction is a cleansing that allows new creation. In the human heart, destruction is anguish, loss, and scars that no philosophy can erase. War as tragedy. The Kurukshetra war raged for 18 days. One of the greatest massacres in world literature. Blood drenched the earth. Heroes, teachers, kin, and innocents fell without distinction. Bhishma, the grandsire, bound by his vow, fell upon a bed of arrows. His wisdom extinguished amid the cries of war. Drona, the revered teacher, was slain by his own disciple. A bond of master and pupil shattered on the battlefield. Karna, noble and loyal, perished at Arjuna's hand while his chariot lay mired in the earth. His death a wound that revealed him as a brother unknown until his final breath. Each death was a bitter lesson that bonds of loyalty, kinship, and mentorship, meant to preserve life, were twisted into reasons to kill. Though the Pandavas claimed victory, what remained was not glory but emptiness. Funeral pyres burned brighter than the sun. Widows and orphans wept louder than the drums of triumph. The throne regained was no throne of honor, but a seat built upon ashes, a reminder that in war, death alone is the true conqueror. Destruction for renewal, consolation or truth. When the dust of war settled, what lingered was not music of celebration, but the echoes of grief. Cities filled with widows, orphans, and the old left helpless. The land itself seemed scarred beyond repair. Unable to bear the weight, humans sought meaning. They told themselves that sacrifice was not futile, that destruction was a cosmic necessity, a cleansing fire for creation to rise anew. The language of philosophy became a shield against despair. Yet perhaps this was but a psychological armor, a story woven to survive unbearable pain. For if the survivors admitted the war was fueled by nothing but envy and greed, their hearts might have broken completely. Thus, the Mahabharata reveals a twofold tragedy. The massacre itself, the loss of countless lives, of teachers, kin, and friends. The survivors need to cloak that loss in the mantle of Dharma, to insist that all this sorrow was meaningful. And so Kurukshetra leaves us a haunting question. If war is truly the universe's tool to cleanse the world, why does its suffering fall not upon the powerful, but upon ordinary people? Perhaps the lofty meanings we construct are not for the cosmos at all, but for our own shattered hearts, so that we may believe the losses were not in vain, and endure amid the ashes.